central processing unit. Okay, there's two kinds, so you might want to do some research, see what you want, but basically Intel tends to be a little bit more expensive, but a little bit better, but it's also not necessarily the case. They're kind of always at war with each other, and so whatever day of the week it is, one might be a little better than the other, and there's a lot of opinions on that. The other one, AMD, is also as good. I know some people think, well, if I get AMD, will I be able to run the same program? It's not like Apple and Microsoft. It's really doesn't matter which one you get as far as if it's going to work or not. But it must match the motherboard. So when you buy the motherboard, you want to be sure and get the right CPU for the motherboard. So really, in essence, you're buying the CPU and the motherboard kind of, or combination. So like you go to Fry's or something, you might buy them as a special that kind of come together. And the CPU is just this little thing here. But this would probably run new about anywhere from $100 to $500, depending on which one you got. So this is all the computer work. This is the brain, so-called brain. And it just simply fits in here. There's a notch, so you don't put it in the wrong way. And it just drops in there. And I don't really don't want to take the time to do it, but that's all. It's very simple. It just snaps right in there. Put that down. Set the fan on there. Maybe a little extra material here so that it cools properly. And that's it. That's all there is to it. And you got your memory. Now this is volatile memory. Once the computer's off, it's gone. So this little thing, you usually maybe get a couple of, comes in like gigabytes nowadays. So get a couple of gigabytes of this, and then it just simply set it in there and fits in there. Now if we have more time, I'd have you guys come up here and plug it in and try it out and everything, but I think I'm a little worried when we run out of time. So the memory must be compatible with the motherboard. So you find out the speeds here when you buy the motherboard, which ones work with it. It's very confusing. One of the more confusing things about building computers is understanding the memory, how it works. For example, the newest memory is called DDR3, and there's two names for it because they can't decide on the standard. It's 1600, but that is the same as PC3 12800. And how they get that number, for some reason, I don't remember what it is, they multiply 1600 by 4. And that's the same with all this other kind of memory. If you're going to buy it, you're like, what do I mean, 1600? And that's because way back when, they were competing with Rambus, and their memory sounded better. So they said, they have a really high number, we got to have a really high number. And now they just keep doing it, and it's just this ridiculous stuff. That's why Apple's so popular. And if you do get totally confused, you can go to this website, crucial.com, and you just type in what your information on your computer, and that'll tell you everything you need to know about what memory you get. So then we have a hard drive and CD-ROM. So this here is your hard drive. This is long-term memory, similar just to putting it on a disk or something. So all your programs, everything gets loaded in here. This is this nowadays comes in like a gigabyte. It used to be like, I don't know, this comes in like a terabyte now. It used to be like 80 gigabytes was good, but nowadays you're getting like a terabyte. And I did want to discuss some confusing things here. If you're building your own computer, you probably want the high speeds, the highest speed that you can get. So that's this is one of the major advantages of doing it yourself. You could do a thing called stripe or mirrored or stripe with distributed parity on your drive. I know it sounds confusing, but basically striped is where you get two of these hard drives, you plug them in, and now they work as one single hard drive. So everything gets written to it. It's like it goes twice as fast. So you have twice the space and twice the speed by doubling it up, and that's really good if you're doing video rendering. Mirror is you just have a copy of the other one, so it writes to both of them exactly the same. So if one goes bad, you automatically have a backup, so you can't lose all your information. That's really important if you're doing photography or something, or anything where you don't want to lose your information. So, and then with RAID 5, well, basically what it does, you have 3 hard drives, and it writes to each one, and it's really kind of complicated, but basically it is the same as RAID 0 and RAID 1, but you need 3 drives. So the other 2, you need 2 drives minimum, and the other one, you can use 3 drives, but you get the same effect of RAID 0 and RAID 1 together. And of course, everybody's familiar with the CD drive. Cool thing, I don't know if a lot of people know, but it just plugs right in. It's really easy, it's 4 screws. It's not a big deal to replace one of these. So of course that's, you put your CD-ROM DVDs in there. And nowadays the floppy drive is kind of becoming obsolete. So it's kind of an option if you think you might need one, but you really don't need it necessarily. And I want to talk a little bit about video cards. This is a video card. You don't always need one, but if you're building your own, that might be a reason. And there's 2 basic kinds, NVIDIA and ATI Radeon. And then they just plug right in right here. Just right in there, no big deal. And you got sound cards. And also you might want to add extra ports that also just plug in right here. So like USB, FireWire, or extra SATA for your hard drive type situation. And last but not least, well, second to last, you have your power supply. This is where the power comes from. So basic rule of thumb with this is, if it's heavy, it's probably good quality. If it's really light, it's probably cheap. This can run you about $100. So cheap ones usually burn out after a year or so. So I don't know. And in the case, a lot of people, this is the most important thing, but really, to me, it's like the least important thing. But a lot of people, when you tell them you'll build them a computer, they're like, well, it's got to be black. It's got to be black. And they don't care about anything else. So case can run you about $100, up to like a couple $100. You want to make sure it's big enough to fit everything you're planning on doing. So. And then of course I'm running out of time, but basically you got all the other stuff most of you are familiar with. And that's it. So quick quiz. What are the main components of the computer? Motherboard. CPU.
Power supply.
Hard drive. Power supply.
Cards.
RAM.
Memory.
Video card.
Video card. And then optional cards.
And sound card.
And all the other monitors and all that.
Okay,
Monitor.
great.